Hey everyone, I just wanted to preface this interview by reading you all the messages that Dr. Fleege sent along with the photos of his monkeys, because I think it adds some context to the interview. As you will come to find out through these messages in the interview we conducted, Dr. Fleege is very old and retired, and a lot of time has passed since running a dentist practice with a monkey. We didn't think he would actually answer the phone when we called, but he did, and he was actually very forthcoming about everything. So for the sake of my own conscience, please don't call him on the phone and bother him in response to this. Pretty much any questions you may have are probably going to be answered with this. So without further ado, his first message. He says, "My wife warned me to be very cautious as I went through many years of harassment from PAWS and PETA. I obtained PJ, short for porcelain jacket, in 1978. She was 3.5 years old. She died in September of 2002, just shy of her 28th birthday. She was my pet first and foremost. We tried to breed her and it did not work out. I cared deeply for her. When the breeding failed, I felt she might be better off back with the owner who sold her to me. He refused, as he said she was now imprinted on me. At the time, I also talked to the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle. They said the same thing. I really cared for her and therefore made the best life I could for her. When I was home and single, she ran around my apartment with a diaper on, but only when I was alone. I did the same thing at my office in the evening, again when alone. When we were treating patients, she was in her plexiglass laminar flow cage with the air vented to the outside. She never could run around when patients were there. On April 17, 1982, I married my wife Stephanie. I then had to make changes as PJ was very possessive. She would bite any females. This required me to keep her caged at home unless I was alone. My wife, a general dentist, practiced in the office next to mine in the 22nd floor medical dental building in downtown Seattle. Our practices were separate. I therefore rent additional space across the hall and built a walk-in cage about 4 feet deep, 12 feet long, and it went to the ceiling. There were branches to climb on, a nesting place, and food and water. Every day when I was practicing, I'd bring PJ over to the office, and when done at night, would take her back to her room. We also used the space for retired charts. She died of old age. It was really sad. This brings me to the point. Stephanie and I found out we could not conceive our own children. We were not able to adopt, so PJ and our dogs became our children. I would not recommend anyone adopt a monkey. They require way more attention and care than you can imagine. The monkeys should live their lives with their own. Once I realized that she was imprinted on me, I accepted the problem and she lived a long and loved life." Next message. I think I have all the photos that I could find digitally copied. Since PJ has been gone for 22 years, many photographs that I used to have been lost. I used my iPhone to make digital copies of the photographs and of the Seattle Times Sunday pictorial on September 1st, 1974, of my dad's office. I took over the office on April 1st, 1977. My dad's monkey was named Rudy, who was stolen from me shortly after I began practicing in the space. Rudy was missed. The children said I was okay, but not as good as my dad because I did not have a monkey. Rudy was never recovered. Several months later, I received a call from an exotic animal dealer in Oregon who had heard that I lost Rudy. He said he might have a capuchin monkey for sale, but I would need to drive down to Oregon for an interview. I drove down to Oregon City to Scotty's Animal Farm. While I was sitting on the floor being interviewed, a female capuchin monkey came over and sat in my lap. Scott said, "You just passed the interview." I bought the monkey and then drove back to Seattle that night. The cage Rudy was in the pictorial article was the size and area where my plexiglass cage was for PJ. I made a copy of the pictorial article on my Canon LaserJet printer. The original newspaper article is too fragile to send you. If the digital images of the article can be read, then I hold off mailing the LaserJet copy. There's one mistake in the article. My dad's name was Dr. Herbert W. Pat Fleege, not Dr. Warren Fleege. I made very few changes in the office configuration except for painting every few years. The dental equipment was kept up to date. Probably the biggest change was adding computers in 1986. Looking back on it, my dad and his 3 brothers were all pedodontists. I was second generation and learned a lot at the dinner table. The entire office was set up to make the dental experience as fun as possible and the dental treatment the best we could deliver. I will send the LaserJet copy of the Seattle Times article on my dad tomorrow. The photograph of PJ that is centered in all of our holiday cards was taken on a beach when she first came to us. The office sent holiday cards to our patients every year. The children loved them as they seldom had mail sent to them alone. When a patient first came to us, I would see them in my private office to take the child's health history, then we would have the child sit in the dental chair, the one in PJ's room, and we took a Polaroid picture which was put on the bulletin board. I would then recline the child and do a cursory examination of the child's mouth to see if they needed to take radiographs, the condition of the overall mouth, and there would be no charge for the visit unless it was for emergency care, usually due to trauma. The next appointment was the cleaning and any necessary radiographs and thorough examination. The next appointment was the consultation with the parent. The radiographs would be projected on a screen. Any pathology would be pointed out, what treatment was indicated and why, answer any questions on the restorations or treatments, and an estimate was given. I then presented the patient's parent with how to prevent future decay through changing their diet. We would then start treatment. Again, no charge for the consult. If no treatment was necessary, the patient would receive a topical fluoride treatment. When treatment was complete, the picture taken at the first appointment would be put into a frame and a diploma given and a 6-month appointment made. The reason I went through this is that PJ was my pet, but more than that, she was the greatest preoccupation breaker one could have. Cordially, Pat Fleege.
Previously on the Vampire Diaries.
What is going on in Thailand? Amazing things are happening in Thailand.
Anyone remember a kid's dentist back in the 90s or early 2000s who had a real-life chimpanzee in his office? When I screamed, the chimp would jump up and down and scream as well. DrOogle.com. Seattle pediatric dentist Dr. Patrick Fleege. A review from 2008 said he had a monkey that yelled and freaked out their child.
Hold on, I found his number. Maybe should we call him?
Call him on the
pod. His
pod.
phone number because I'm looking at Patrick 8.
It's on his website. Hello, I was calling for Dr. Fleege. Hi, this is so nice to talk to you. I'm calling because we heard reports. We saw some old news articles about a pet monkey you used to have in your office, and so I'm part of a podcast called Gorilla Radio Show. We do like culture reporting about primates and try to bring attention to people who want to know about how to take care of primates, how to live with primates. Would you be interested in maybe providing me some details so we could maybe email you some questions or talk further on at a more appropriate time?
Sure. What went on was I'm a pedodontist, board certified. My father was a pedodontist, and he had 3 brothers that were pedodontists.
Yeah.
And one day, my father was down in a pet store that used to be on, I think, First Avenue in Seattle, Washington. And he had a staff member with him because he'd had a coronary and he was supposed to walk, and so he'd walk with one of his staff people. They kind of forced him to walk so that he could get the exercise he needed. And so he bought a monkey, and he named it after his, he was a friend who was also his advisor for stocks at one of the Merrill Lynch. And anyway, his name was Rudy Wolf, and so my dad named the monkey Rudy to kind of tease his friend. And then my dad retired, and I bought his practice, and all of a sudden, I have Rudy in the office, and it was a male monkey. So male monkeys don't like males; they like females. And so the monkey would, and so my, and so the staff members, when I would go away, would take the monkey for me, and I pay him a little extra to do that. And then one time, Rudy got stolen, and we never knew what really happened. But then I was without a monkey. So then everybody would come in and they'd say to me, well, you're okay, but you're not as good as your dad because you don't have that blankety-blank monkey. So then I put out the word that I was looking for it, and there was somebody down in, I think it was really South Washington. No, it was in Oregon, actually. It was a farm where this fellow had animals, and he had a capuchin monkey down there, which was a female. And so he sold that monkey to me, and I named her PJ. And PJ in dentistry is the name of a certain type of a restoration called a porcelain jacket.
That's awesome.
And it's a pure porcelain crown. And so I had the monkey in my office for 21 years. She died when she was about 28 years
Greg
old.
is stimming right now.
And I got her when she was 3.5. So maybe a little longer than 20. Maybe I haven't worked out the math on that.
But yeah, no, that
anyway,
sounds about right for their
had,
lifespan. Mm-hmm.
And then she did die of old age. And there was a time when PETA and PAWS came after me because I had the monkey and I was supposed to put it back into the Woodland Park Zoo. And the zoo even told me when I wanted to try to repatriate the monkey to other monkeys that they wouldn't take the monkey because once it'd been with humans, they would not go back if they're now with the humans. And that monkey really liked me because I was a male, but she didn't like females. So I kept her until she passed away. And she was, I think, around 27, 28 years old, which is really ancient for a monkey. And so I had to I called up the zoo and says, hey, look, you told everybody that I should, that you were okay with PETA and PAWS. And by the way, PETA is not a nice organization. They are very radical. And they made my life miserable for 6 or 9 years. And then finally it just wore off. And I went into the sunset with a monkey. And I had a special room across the hall where I had a special cage for her because when I got married, I couldn't bring her home because she would go after my wife if she got out of the cage. So
I see. So PJ lived with you, right?
She lived with me on and off. I used to bring her home, but then later on, like I said, when I was married, I made a cage for her down in the office, down in the medical dental building, across the hall from my office, and that's where she stayed at night. And I put trees in there and made it a big cage. And she was different than the other monkey in that she didn't mind being alone. They're like humans. And some people like to be alone. Some people like to be with people. And she was kind of a loner. And but people so humanize the monkey because they kind of look like us, but they're entirely different. But that was my monkey, and I was the one that go over every day, and I'd grab her little. She had a little leatherette leash on her, and I'd bring her over to her cage in my office, which had a linear. I put a laminar airflow in there so the air would go in on the inside and go out with a forced air fan blowing all the stuff outside. And then it had a area underneath where I could pull out and clean all the stuff up once a week. And so that's how she lived in the office. And I can say honestly, that monkey probably did as much for dentistry as I did because I used to put a little coffee cream on a toothbrush, and then she would put the toothbrush in her mouth and it would be like she was brushing her teeth. And then I put some dental floss in there and she started trying to floss her teeth. It was, it was really kind of fun.
Hell yes.
Yeah, so she was watching y'all floss and brush teeth and she learned how to do it herself. I bet the kids it was like the best seller for them, right? Like they would brush their teeth every day after that.
Well, and my father was very, very aware that distraction is probably the best way. So in our office, we had an actual pinball machine. We had a jukebox that worked from the early 50s. I put in video games when they came available. And we always tried to make dentistry incidental to having a good time as much as we could. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole idea of it. And the monkey actually did a really good job because on the first visit, we'd have what we call a get acquainted visit. And we'd put the child in the chair and they'd be looking up at the monkey and, wow, this is kind of cool. Dentistry's not bad at all.
Yeah. So it was a good way to get people to feel comfortable in the dentist office and in the chair.
And that was the idea. So that's what I did. And so she passed away, I believe, in the 2001, I think, or 2002, right around there.
Mm-hmm.
It was right when 9/11 occurred, and so that's how I can kind of remember it. But I was actually away.
Your
I
own
was
personal
away when she
9/11,
died.
I see. Yeah.
My wife was helping me take care of it. She would go over and feed it, make sure she had water and stuff. And that was it, you know. And I generally got the job of cleaning the cages. And I made the plexiglass cage that she had in the office. So, yeah, that was it. And it was quite an adventure. Oh, and she was given a lot of sugar when she was younger, because I got her when she was 3.5. And she had a lot of decay. So then I sedated her and did all of her dentistry. And I also cut down her cuspid so that she couldn't, you know. So what the monkey would do is they take their cuspids and they catch them on, and then they punch holes in people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd also take the monkey out, and I would visit classrooms, usually under the age of 4th grade, and I'd bring in fruit and different things. And I had a jawbone from an elk, and I had a jawbone from a shark, and I had a jawbone from I think it was a lion, and then I had an older human jaw that was all worn down. And what I would do is I would go in and show them the jawbone, and I'd have them look at it, and I'd pass it around the room, and then I would explain to them that there's no decay in any of that, and that's because they didn't eat the sugar. Then I would, and the elk or moose jaw, whatever it was they had the big molars, and I said, "Do we have teeth like this?" And then they'd say, "Well, no." And I said, "Well, feel these back ones; those are your molars, and they're used for grinding." And then we'd have the incisors, and I would say that the shark jaw, these are incisors. But unlike our teeth, we only have 2 sets. We have the baby teeth, and then we have our permanent teeth. But the shark has 5 or 6 rows of teeth, and when one row wears out, the next row's there to take its place. And so, but what happens when we lose our first teeth? Well, they'll get replaced, but then when we lose our second teeth, we don't get it replaced. And then the last one was the cuspid, and the lion was a good example of, having large canines for, holding their food. And I would explain that was what our cuspids were for. And then I would go through, the first thing I would do, and I would, I have usually an orange cut up, and I would pass the oranges around to the people and give an orange to the monkey, and they watch the monkey eat it, and then when the monkey would eat it, they'd eat it. And I would say, "This is really good for your teeth, and it's a lot better than anything else." And then I put up a red potato, and then I give a piece of it to the monkey, and the monkey would eat it. And they all thought it was an apple, but it was a potato. And I'd pass that around, and they'd all have a little piece of it. And I'd say the only rule is if you take it, you got to eat it. If you don't want it, don't take it. And then the third thing I would pass around would be an apple, and they all got that. And then I'd use celery, and I'd say that was just like dental floss because it cleans between your teeth. And explain to them that if you eat these good types of foods and stay away from not eating sugar, you won't get cavities, and you will keep your teeth. And the monkey was so in tune to what we did, because we did this about once a month on a Friday afternoon. And I would one time I got it kind of mixed up, and I gave an apple instead of the red potato, and she wouldn't eat it. And she knew that I was supposed to give her a potato.
I see. You threw off the schedule. I see.
Yeah. So, and that's what I did with her. I used her for, and Pete and Paz came after me with a passion, and they couldn't come up in the medical dental building was open, but they couldn't come up and be in the halls because that was, my dental office. But they could parade back and forth, and then they would crash my telephones. They'd keep calling up and fixing it so that my phones would be just inundated with calls. And it was a rough time, but I got through it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, it seems I'm very interested in knowing more about the enclosure you built for PJ. Did you build an enclosure for Rudy and then another one for PJ? Is that right?
No, Rudy had just a normal cage, but I had a woman in my staff who was allergic to something within the monkey. And so I wanted to get an enclosed cage so I could put the air outside, and then this woman didn't have her allergy problems anymore. And so I built it myself. I built it out of plexiglass, and I did make it so that I had laminar airflow into it. We push air in one side and pull it out the other, and we keep it going, and then we could clean it up by pulling out the drawer. And so that's why I did it.
I see.
And also, the monkey, if somebody put their finger in there, she might bite it. So I just made dang sure that nobody could get hurt from that monkey. I had to be really careful.
Mm-hmm, of course.
He has been dying to
And then Peter and Paz turned me into the State Dental Disciplinary Board. And I proved to them that there was a laminar airflow, that the monkey was separated from my patients. And
Question answered.
it was in my operatory, and this is what it did, and it was perfectly fine, and everything was clean around the dental chair, and they finally had to agree that okay, you're okay. But and I can tell you that PETA and Paws, boy, they really play dirty. They're just awful, and. And it's one of the reasons why I quit giving to those groups, because once they kind of run out of the one way, then they do it other ways. Because they were saying, that you got to give money so we can, get rid of this monkey because it's a bad deal. Anyway,
yeah.
So, would you need any more information than that, or
no? That was basically answered all the questions we had. Because we've seen all these snippets and like old archived news publications, and we were really interested in knowing more. But thank you so much for answering our questions.
Hold on. I've been retired now for about 10 years. I used to have a file with pictures in it. My father was quite a character too, so.
Mm-hmm.
And we also had some stuff that we handed out to the patients, and then one was a kind of a 2-page article on candy for breakfast, which means cereals, all forms of cereal.
Oh, I read that article on your website. Yes.
So all the stuff that I have was on the website. I don't think. I'm just kind of going through some of the papers here that I had received. Most of the stuff from the office, we kept it for 10 years. And so I quit in 2014, and PJ died in 2001. So all of that stuff went different ways. Oh, golly. And my mom was a dietitian.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on 1 second here.
This is fucking incredible.
This is awesome.
This is the best thing to have ever happened to this podcast.
This podcast is worth it.
We need to make a follow-up post in the Seattle subreddit.
Okay, I got a picture. It's a newspaper article. It was done in the pictorial, and it's of Rudy. And it was when my dad had the office, and it shows a pinball machine and the jukebox, which I still have, and the peoples and what it's kind of like in there. And there's a picture of the monkey in the cage. So if you wanted to get that, I could give it to you.
Yeah,
I'll give him to
absolutely.
use.
Give him anybody's address. I don't care. He needs to send it.
And I don't know how I would get it to you, and if you wanted to talk more, I can too.
Absolutely. Let me see. Is this email on your website still active? Could I send you maybe I can, if you want to send me the physical copy of the image, you could, or if you wanted to scan it or take a picture of it, you could also send it to me through email.
The best email to use now, pafleege@drfleege.com has real high security on it and I was hacked, and they went into my financials, and they went in through I had some cryptocurrency, and they got into my hard wallet because a hard wallet had software in it that had been compromised, and I wasn't getting any communications from them because I wasn't paying much attention to it so about a year I left it alone, and they came in through that software and they took all of my cryptocurrency.
Do you think this was really was this also PETA that did this?
No. This is just in February of this year, and it's not the world I grew up in. And when you are in a profession like I was, you trust people, and the only way so they will trust you. And it was terrible, but I'm living through it, and it wasn't really my fault. They just got in, and I didn't keep up with it. And there's so much going. So drfleege.com probably wouldn't let you through, but why don't you give me your address, and I can just send you the newspaper clipping that I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Should I just give it to you now? Would that be great?
Yeah.
All right. My address is...
how do you spell that? SOLID?
Charlotte is CHARLOTTE.
CHAR Charlotte
LOTTE.
CHARLO after that
TTE.
LOPT Charlotte CHARLOT double T?
Two T's. TTE.
Okay. Double T. Okay.
Yes.
Charlotte.
Yep.
North Carolina?
E at the end. Yep. North Carolina.
Okay, so and what is your name again, sir?
My name is Chandran.
Spell it, please.
CHANDRAN. And I will send you an email to both your account for drfleege.com
and your first name?
Chandran. That was my first name.
Yeah.
Okay, and your last name?
Awesome. Okay, I will. I'll text you all the details to make sure you got it. Got everything.
Okay. And I'll look around and see if I have any other pictures of PJ. But the pictures. This was an article that was done in. It was the kind of magazine for the Seattle Times, and they would take different things. It was just like they call it the picture or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd had all these pictures. So they came in because one of my dad's patients was working on this when he graduated from my dad. So they came in and it says combining psychology and dentistry, and it has a picture of my dad with one of his assistants, and then it goes on to show, Rudy the monkey and all the test stuff that we had in the office that we used. That's always just to distract the patient because, dentistry is not really, it's give me $1 and I'll give you a herd, huh?
Uh-huh.
What does that mean?
Okay. Sandra, you have a nice life, and I'll get this going tomorrow, and then if you get that other stuff to me, then we'll stay in touch and we'll have some fun.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me tonight. I know I called a little bit late, but have a great night.
Well, it's interesting. My younger brother is kind of at the ends of his life, and he has some dementia, and he can't. Oh God! And it's been a tough week for all of us. So it's nice to talk to somebody about some fun stuff. That's why I picked up the phone right away.
I'm very glad I could provide that for you. All right.
Okay, have a great night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
We have the best podcast on the fucking internet.
We have
This
the
is
best
incredible.
podcast on earth.
Y'all
the
thought
fuck?
he was dead. Y'all
I
just assumed he was dead.
No
He
one
was a
tried to
million
call
years
us?
old.
He's all.
I didn't know there were multiple Dr. Fleeges.
He's of the Fleege lineage.
Fleege clan. This is amazing.
Okay.
You know what we can do? We can make this a 2-part episode.
This part where you're on the phone with him needs to be its own thing, and you need to post it on the Seattle subreddit.
Yeah. No, we
Yeah.
can. I think we've split this up into like a 2-parter.
Yeah,
episode.
it needs its own cover art. It needs to be a picture.
Yeah,
Of the picture he sends
Greg,
us
do
in
you
the
want to
mail.
make that? Do you want to do
When he
like
sends us the picture in the mail? Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Fuck it.
we're gonna use that.
206. We also have to bleep out all his information and whatnot.
Well, yeah. I'll edit
and
that.
your
And my
address.
information.
I cannot. This was what the. He's wanted to talk about that monkey for the last 20 years.
He
I
loved
mean-
talking about that damn monkey. At first,
I am completely turned around on this guy, by the way. He is a sweetheart who absolutely loved that monkey. And
Yeah,
his
he built
employees,
a whole
he built that monkey a
enclosure
whole
for her.
enclosure just so one woman wouldn't have an allergic reaction.
I mean, I get like he's just from a different time. I guess he's an interesting character, is what I'll say. I'm not gonna make a moral judgment of his character.
Love how he did the old person ramble and tell us about his entire personal life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was endearing. That was charming.
Well, I think this is a wonderful place to just go ahead and end this episode.
Yeah,
We're not going to
fuck
top
it, man.
that. We've been going for an hour
Yeah,
40.
we can't wait. There's nothing else we can say now that tops the fact that we just got a live on the spot interview with Dr. Fleege.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought to just call?
So, if you're listening in for the very first time, maybe you saw the original post on the Seattle subreddit, check us out. We have socials everywhere. You can check us out on Twitter at gorilla__radio. And if you really like our content, you can go on over to patreon.com/gorilla radio show and get all kinds of awesome, quirky bonus content where maybe we'll start trying to call other people who've owned monkeys before, because I guess they'll just talk to us. So thank you all so much for listening, and have a wonderful week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.